So hi, welcome to the Noise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
John from Gnawing.
and we're asking some questions today about their new album, You Freak Me Out. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to it so far?
Good. Yeah, I feel good. I think that putting a summer record out is always hard when it gets to like list season at the end of the year, you know?
Mhm.
So we had our fingers crossed for some like bigger lists and then we were like, well, okay, we're just happy with whatever we got on anyway. So like we ended up on like a lot of friends' blogs and podcasts and stuff. And so that was honestly more, I think, validating than getting on like, one of the big ones.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Sure.
And putting out an album in the summertime is just hard to begin with, like as a DIY band, since like every band in existence is putting one out for their summer tour. So
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely a ballsy move, but you pulled it off.
Thank you.
Yeah. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
So the title, I think somebody said it in a conversation once. And I think that any sort of like creative person kind of always does this, but you kind of always like take notes from like things you hear, like if you're in conversation, if somebody says like a funny turn of phrase or something, you're like, oh man, like I'm gonna hold on to that and like use it for something. Which is like a really weird way to interact with the world, but I guess that's just the way that creatives do it. And so somebody had said you freak me out, and I truly do not remember like where it came from, but I just had it on a note on my phone forever. It just had, I in quotations had, you freak me out. And so once we started kind of writing more songs for the record, we had one. And so I used it as the chorus of the song, and was like, man, that'd be a cool song title. And then we were like, man, that'd be cool to like have the title track of the record. And so we just it just turned into that. And then the artwork is mostly Emily Lakehomer, who's our friend who did the artwork for it. She really just kind of took her own. I was like, here, like, I trust you, you do, whatever you think that the record sounds like. And so with a lot of the country and like twangy influence, she had this picture that she had taken of a metal cactus at like a weird roadside stop out in the desert. And so she was like, I have this picture, I think it would be perfect. And so that is the picture that's like, on the center of the record. So
very cool.
That's sick.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this album?
Yeah, so like I would say like 50% of the songs were songs that we had for quite some time. A couple of them, like the one that sort of starts the B-side, Happy for You. We had that almost as early as like the first show that we had played, back when our friend Allie was still playing bass and singing in the band as well. So we'd been playing that one for a while. And a couple others had been around in different forms or different sounding ways for a minute. And so we had those, and when Chris joined the band, he had a lot of cool ideas and wanted to kind of put in some of his own additions, like that, the sort of like stoner metal interlude that's in the middle of the record. Like that's all Chris, like he like had, that's sort of his, anybody that's seen us play knows that that's like his little sound check riff. When they ask him to check his line, he starts playing the little doom bass riff. So yeah, the writing process was kind of, we had this like 5 or 6 songs by the time Chris joined the band. When Chris joined the band, he had some ideas. We had skeletons of stuff that we hadn't really finished yet, and so having him really kind of, we weren't sure that we were going to be ready in time to meet the sort of soft deadline that Refresh had set in place for us to have the record done by. And having Chris join the band like really revitalized it. And we were like, okay, like we can knock this out, like we could do this. And so so we just kind of went for it and took stuff that might have been like, an idea that Christian and I had jammed on once, and we're like, we'll touch it later, and then we showed him a bunch of voice memos when he joined, and he was like, yo, let's do this one and this one. We're like, okay, cool, that's awesome, let's roll with it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want you to tell us your favorite lyric off this album and the meaning behind it.
Oh, wow. I I don't know if I could pick a single favorite one. Crenshaw, to me, Crenshaw Avenue is like that was one of the ones that like when I wrote it, I was really proud of it. And then when we tracked it and like tracked the vocals for it and we're starting to get like what was like the final version of it, I was like, damn, I don't know that I'll like ever write a song this good again. Which is like, it's like not true. Like I'm sure I will. It's not that great of a song, but like
exactly.
But yeah, it was one of those ones that I was really proud of. So there's a lot of lines in there that I'm really proud of. But I also really like, and I think the one that we get asked about a lot is the line "and so glad," where it says something about crying at a movie last fall. So everybody always wants to know like if that was true, and it is true. I went and saw Coco, the Pixar movie.
Oh, God, it's such a good movie.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went and saw that with my partner at the time, that is now my wife. And
congrats.
Yeah. Thank you. And so that was the first time. I think it was the first time that she had seen me cry. I cried at Coco. So
that's valid. Coco's a banger.
Yeah, definitely.
So how'd the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, closer be the closer, just shuffle around, see what fits? What was that process like?
Yeah, I think that for all three of us, sequencing is really important. And I'll speak for myself. I love sort of breaking down, why my favorite records were sequenced in the way that they were and things like that. And I think I think there is kind of a science to it. So a little bit like some stuff I knew was going to be in certain place. Like when we finalized contract and we're like, playing at shows regularly and stuff, we were like, man, this is like, especially with like the drum fill coming in and stuff, we were like, this is a killer. Like this would be a really good opener. Yeah. So ones like that, like we knew we wanted to start off with that. And then, I think like the sort of like, middle part peaks really well with You Freak Me Out. So we knew that we wanted that to like kind of be in the middle. And then a lot of the other ones we sort of let them, we tried like a lot of different sequencing to see like what kind of would fit the best. Like originally Worst Person I Know was supposed to be where the like doom interlude is, the little like stoner metal interlude. It was supposed to be like in the middle of the record. And there was like there was supposed to be like the closing track was supposed to be like this like 5-minute long acoustic track with like some pedal steel.
Wow.
And once we just started tracking it, like it just didn't come out the way that we thought it was going to sound. And so it just like, it's like buried in Alan, who engineered it. It's like buried in his hard drive somewhere. Like it doesn't have vocals or anything. We did a scratch vocal and we were like, man, this just like it sounds cool in person, but it's not translating well to being recorded. So maybe we'll put it together again. But then once we decided we didn't want to end with like the somber note, we were like, man, we should put Worst Person I Know at the end, because it's like, especially with the like really noisy, wild ending falling apart at the end there. We were like, I think that's a good note to go out on for the LP.
For sure.
It sounds like a lot of thought went into this. How did you guys know when you finally had the official track listing?
It just kind of sounded right. Christian and I really went through a lot of different playlist options, and so we would have, like if you look through like our texts, it's a bunch of like handwritten notes of like, oh, like this, like swapping orders and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we tried out a lot of different options to like kind of nail down what we thought would make the most sense, sort of flowing wise and transition wise. So yeah, it was just kind of trial and error until we were like, yeah, that's the one. Like that one sounds good.
Yeah. Perfect. So could you tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this album?
Yeah. A lot of it is, sort of like dealing with growing up and dealing with maturing and processing that and processing like, being that like, I think that, your late 20s, which is where I was when I was writing a lot of these songs, that it's like, you're like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, like you like kind of have adult obligations and you have shit you got to worry about and bills and stuff. But you still just like, the desire to just hop in the van and like go play some gigs with, with your shithead punk friends. Like it's kind of, the record is kind of, for me, processing like, how to do both if you can do both, you know, trying to kind of feel more at peace with growing old. DIY, I think, and punk, you know, punk rock and DIY kind of trends younger, as you know, because it's youthful, it's energetic, it's rebellious, it's got all these things to it, you know. So you start to feel like kind of not weird, but you start to feel like kind of out of place being like 30 and like going to a house show, you know, like it's like, so it's just kind of that I hope that other people can find that in the record and can kind of be like, oh yeah, like, you know, I'm in my 30s or whatever, and I still enjoy like putting on Dinosaur Jr. and like smoking a little joint on a Friday night or something, you know, like I hope that everybody just can kind of find that, you know, the growing pains of like being a teenager and things like that. Like that's very heavily written about, and a lot of people talk about that all the time. But I wanted to write about the growing pains of sort of getting out of your 20s and not being a, you know, a shithead anymore, or trying not to be, at least.
Fair enough. Yeah. So when you finally got the masters back, how did you personally listen to this album for the first time?
So I have my time-tested method of because I want to hear it on everything. So the first thing I did was put it through my like home stereo, my like nicer speakers, and hear it how, like, you know, the true gnawing heads are going to hear it, audiophile style. And then I played it through laptop speakers, played it through my phone speakers, and then the stereo system in our van that we have the van is from 97. The stereo system is from 97 too. So it is just garbage. It's terrible, blown out. So we played it through that too, because we were like, man, if it sounds good on this, it's going to sound good on everything, you know? Yeah. And so we were really happy with it. Yeah, it sounded awesome in the van. Okay. It sounded like super, the van gives it a little bit more of like kind of a 70s or like, you know, late 60s, early 70s kind of blown out, like kind of like a Stones record or something, which is, you know, like a huge influence for me. So I was like, man, this sounds awesome. Like everything's like kind of distorted coming through it. It's cool.
You're like, can we remaster the record to sound exactly like this on everything?
We'll do like do like a van sessions tape or something.
Oh my god, that'd be sick. But this one should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words, no more, no less.
Oh wow, okay, 3 words. Fuzzy country guitars.
Okay. There you go. All right. There you go.
So in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want your listeners to have while going through the album?
I think it's very nostalgic feeling to me, and very nostalgic sounding, with like a lot of the, you know, Lemonhead's influence, and a lot, you know, like it's very reminiscent. We know what we play, like it's very reminiscent of like 90s alternative radio stuff. So it feels just sort of as a whole nostalgic to me. So I think nostalgia, there's some really happy moments, and there's some really like sort of melancholy moments. So maybe a little, you know, you're riding the wave of emotions as you listen to it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So what is your favorite memory that you made while creating this album?
I mean, really just tracking the whole thing was really a really fun time. It was right in, so we started tracking in the summer of 2020. So COVID was obviously, you know, at its, not all-time high, because it just continues to find all-time highs, but it was at a
somehow. Sorry,
Lord, you know, you're fine. Yeah, so it was at a very big high, and this was pre-vaccines too. So the people that own the studio, they were like, you know, you can track, but like everybody has to be masked, which we obviously had no problem with. And they were like, it's essential personnel only. So it's only the people that are tracking that day that can be there. So like when we did drums, it was Alan who was engineering upstairs. And then in the live room I was playing scratch guitar and Christian was recording drums. So Chris wasn't there, our bass player wasn't there for like any of the drum tracking. And then when he did bass, like Christian wasn't there for any of the bass tracking. So it was like really interesting to do. You know, I'm so used to like everybody's in the same room. We're all like throwing ideas out left and right and like trying different stuff. And like when we did vocals, like it was just in Alan for most of the vocal days because nobody else could be there. So it was like, it was kind of interesting to see it come together in pieces like that. And then it was really interesting. Like some of my favorite stuff was like seeing the reactions of like Christian, who, you know, started it with the drums. Like he was the first person to track anything with drums, and then couldn't come back for like 2 weeks, you know, like while we were doing guitars and bass and stuff. And so when he came back, it was like a totally different, like he was like, whoa, I haven't heard the guitars on this record yet. Like this is awesome. Like his reaction was really cool, because he hadn't been hearing as it progressed. He hadn't been hearing any of it, you know. So yeah, there was a lot of fun ways to like navigate the COVID protocols in place at the studio. And like I guess really actually probably I've said this really long answer now. I think my favorite memory from the record is when we did the like additional percussion. We recorded it in our practice space, just me and Christian. And that was like a really fun, like we were just finding, there's a bunch of bands that share the same space. So there was like somebody had shakers and there was like maracas like tucked in a corner somewhere. So we were just like finding random percussion shit and like, oh, we should put this on this track and like just trying shit out. So that actually is my favorite memory. Yeah.
All right.
That sounds awesome.
So picture this: you're on tour, you're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
Snack of choice. Well, it depends on what region we are in. If we are in the South, I'm gonna go classic combo of Sundrop and orange cheddar combos. You know, they have the little cheddar dusting all over everything, which is just fantastic. I would put that cheddar dusting on everything I eat if I could.
That's fair.
Yeah, so that's my South combo. And if we go up north, we're gonna hit a Wawa for sure.
Yep.
So I would do a Wawa iced coffee because I don't know what they put in it, but it's amazing.
Crack.
Yes. I would do a Wawa iced coffee, and then I would do one of the like, you know, you can like customize. I love the breakfast burrito, and I'll get it at like any hour of the day.
That's fair. What are sundrops? I feel uncultured. Shane, do you know what sundrops are? Okay, I don't know what they are.
I think it's like really only southeast. Like I think it's like North Carolina and like staying along that coast. I know they make it in North Carolina. It's like yellow. it's like Mountain Dew, but it's not as Mountain Dew can be kind of like rough, you know, like Mountain Dew can be kind of like
a lot.
Yeah. And Sundrop is just to me it is like the quintessential Southern beverage, because it's just sweet and like it's just a nice ride, you know. It
just sounds crisp. Like,
yeah, it's super crisp. Yeah.
See, it sounded like a candy to me, so I was imagining like a gumdrop type thing, but like in the shape of a Hershey Kiss. I don't know. So when you said
that'd be cool too. That would be awesome. Yeah. It's a yellow soda. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Sounds fucking I'll have to look banging.
Up for it. Yeah. If y'all see it, you got to grab it.
Yeah, I'm in Virginia, so I assume when you said south, whatever, when you said it's over here, I was like, oh, I should have seen it by now, but I guess not. So I'll look out for it.
If you stumble across it, Glory, send me a case.
Okay, I will.
We'll have to mail it. I'll find some and mail both of y'all some, because it's truly it's the best. I see it. I'm in Virginia now, so I'm in Richmond, and I see it every once in a while at like Publix. I'll see it, but it's pretty rare here, and I don't see it in gas stations ever here. But in North Carolina, it's like everywhere.
You can't get away from it.
Yeah. And they have a cherry lemon one too, which is
okay. That sounds good.
That's fucking good.
That sounds really good. Okay. So on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be?
I feel like we would be like a big plate of nachos with just like a ton of different shit on there. I think that would fit all three of us taste wise and just sort of music wise, because we pull from a lot of different influences and sources, I think.
There you go. It's perfect.
So for the last couple questions, we're going to shift away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Oh man. Okay. Well, my drink would be Sundrop for sure.
There you go.
If I'm on death row and it's my last meal, I think that I would break vegetarian, and I think I would have a barbecue sandwich and some French fries.
That sounds really good. So if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
One fictional world for a week. I would live I think because it's fresh off my mind because I just watched it, I think I would live in, I mean, obviously I would live in the Star Wars universe, but specifically I would be like Mandalorian's like best friend.
There you go. Yeah,
I would be Baby Yoda, basically.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be a nice life. I was worried
Yeah.
you were going to say the new Boba Fett series because I personally am not a big fan of it, but you said Mando, so I
Mando for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Boba Fett is like dating back to when I was a child, like one of my favorite characters, but they did him dirty. I didn't like it.
They just made him a grumpy old man. Like, I get it, you
Yeah.
basically died, but like, lighten up.
Yeah.
Lighten up, dude.
All he did for most of the season was like walk around and sort of mumble. Like I had to put subtitles. I was like, what is he saying?
That was it. What are you saying? Like it was it's so lame. I hate it.
I wasn't a big fan. The two best episodes were the ones that had Mando
with
in it.
Mandalorian
Like, cool,
in it. Exactly. Like you could tell that the writers were so sick of him already when they just dedicated an entire episode just to Mandalorian.
That was really wild. I was like, wait, this is still Boba Fett, right? Like we haven't seen him this whole episode.
Exactly. Just give us another season of Mandalorian. That's it.
Yeah, that's what the people want. It's what the people want.
No, but a lot of people asked for it, but like we don't want.
We didn't ask for that. Yeah.
Exactly.
We asked for Boba Fett, but we didn't ask for whatever that was.
Exactly. We didn't agree to this. Exactly. Oh God, so bad. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have done my best in the last question, and every single person we've spoken to has said that it is the most important question. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is I'm having a purple moment right now. I'm really into purple. I've been feeling some purple. I like the darker purple because it's kind of you can get some subtleties in there.
Sure.
There you go. Perfect.
So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
No. Stream our record and then buy it. And we have a bunch of long sleeve shirts that we printed for our tour in January that got canceled. So buy those off of our Bandcamp because now we have to pay them back. So
gotta pay for them somehow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for now. This has been John from Gnawing, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.